Next up, our Power Talk. Our Power Talk, this is the Executive Presence Bootcamp, where we're going to invite up to the stage. I'm already loving this woman in the chat. I'm going to be continuing this conversation with you, Patty. What the missing link between merit and mastery. Patty is a rock star. In her training and consulting company, she builds rock star teams. She is the author of Quiet Women Never Changed History. Be strong, stand up, and stand out. Let's go kick some glass. Nice. Oh, look at her. There she is. It's not a video meeting until we have some sort of canine or feline tail coming across my screen. Love that you've invited your dog as well. She is the global leader of senior of Fortune 500, Microsoft, and Johnson and Johnson, and she is so welcome here, and we thank you. I hand it right over to you, friend. Away you go.
Okay, thank you so much. And so that was my crazy rescue pug. We live in Dallas Fort Worth area. We're out in the sticks where my neighbors are longhorn steers, cows, pigs, horses, etc. And Kiwi is our rescue that we got from Dallas Fort Worth Pug Rescue about 6 months ago. She's a year old. They found her on the streets of Dallas with a 12-week-old puppy, and she was only a year old. So she has the worst anxiety that if one of us leaves a house, she goes completely berserk. I am so excited to be here. I truly am. And we've got such amazing things to talk about. And I'm hoping we can show the slides, because if people want the slides, they can get them from Women in Cloud, or they can get them through me. So if you want the slides, you can have those slides as well. So I've been, and I call myself a badass class kicker. And I hope that doesn't offend anyone. But I have been kicking this glass ceiling since the 1980s, if not sooner. I started out with a passion for women when I worked in the banking field, and I was a vice president for a big California bank. And I realized 90% of my staff was women, and they weren't going anywhere. There was no advancement for them. There was no opportunity. They were tellers and customer service people, but very few of them rose to the level that I did, that I went from being a teller in college to vice president of customer and people excellence by the time I left in 10 years. And then somehow I had this crazy idea. I'd get out of the corporate world. My dad thought I was insane. And I would leave the corporate world and I'd start my own company on creating customer-centric, employee-centric companies outside of my normal company I worked with. And in 1998, I got hired by Microsoft. I was there for 15 years and left at a pretty senior level. And I tell my story in some of my Women in Cloud Power Talks I've done, that I was that person, that woman on the floor in the bathroom at 5 o'clock in the morning on another rainy Seattle day, on the floor in tears and sweat, because I had worked myself from going from rock star and being on the executive potential program that only 50 people got on a year, to being to rock bottom where I couldn't get up off the bathroom floor in tears and sweat to go to the job that I love. And I don't blame Microsoft. I'm still a stockholder. I still love them. When I left Microsoft in 2014, I continued to consult with them for 4 or 5 years. So I don't blame them, but what happened is I lost sense of me, who I was, what I mastered, what I had good merit of, what was important to me in my personal vision. So one of my challenges for you today is I want you to craft a personal vision statement that you use to guide your career and your life. And I'll tell you how I use that and in what ways I did that. So if you are concerned, and I have a special offer at the end to get my book for a discount, and I will sign it to you and mention Women in Cloud. So I have something at the very end. So I went from that person, from being that rock star to being at rock bottom, because I did not put myself first on the list. I worked myself to where I was this great superstar that if anybody came to me, I would say, I can do that. I can do that. But the fact was, I was doing that at the sacrifice of my own health and mental well-being. I sat in front of a doctor after 6 months of going to doctors and nurse practitioners and health people, and they all kept telling me I was depressed. So they were giving me depressant medication. They told me my adrenal glands had failed, that I had anxiety and they needed to give me something to take care of I couldn't sleep. I had anxiety. I was a wreck. I gained 30 pounds and I'm only 5'3". When you gain 30 pounds, that's a lot. That's really a lot. If you're 6 foot tall, maybe not so much. So I had to figure out what I was going to do. And what I realized happened to me that happens to so many women is we get into this perfectionism that starts when we're little girls and we're told to be the good girl, go to the good school, have the good friends. I call it the good girl syndrome. Find a good husband, find a good job, do your job, keep your head down, and somebody will notice. Well, they're not. You have to take control of your career. I put in the chat, control your own destiny. Otherwise, someone else will. And why would you give that power to anybody else? It's your life, it's your career. Stand up, stand out, be bold, be a badass guy kicker, but don't move from being effective and bold and assertive to being bitchy and bossy to that extreme. There's a Stanford study that says women who are both strong and assertive and passionate, combined with empathy, advance faster. There's also something called the double bind paradox. As men rise up the ranks, they gain credibility and respect. As women rise up the ranks, we lose credibility and people start to become suspect. And so they say things like, well, I wonder how she got the job. I wonder if because it was a quota to do more women. I put in the chat, I now work for VMware as the Senior Director of Sales Enablement across the entire globe and the Center of Excellence. And I love this company. We literally have our bonuses at Senior Director and above are 50% tied to our revenue attainment of AAR, annual recurring revenue, and our DEI initiatives. So I am recruiting. We have amazing jobs at Microsoft. I worked there for 15 years. At VMware, we have amazing jobs all over the world and everything you can imagine. We're very much a values-based company. So the other thing is that when you're that little girl, that perfectionism turns into imposter syndrome. And we start to doubt our merit, our competency, our mastery. If women want to advance, there's several things we need to think about. And some of this may be tough love. We need to get over the imposter syndrome. We need to realize we are great at what we do. We need to master that and be willing to stand up and say, I did this. You ask most women when they do a presentation, it goes really well. They walk off from this presentation or this meeting and somebody says, oh my gosh, Josie, that was amazing. What does Josie say? I could have done better. It was my team. So instead of saying those kinds of words, think about saying, my team and I did this. So you're still not cutting out your team, but you're saying, I did this. I'm part of this. It's being visible, valuable, and vocal in those meetings. Take a seat at the table. Show up at the Zoom meeting. You only have to dress decent from this way up. On the bottom, I have on sweatpants and flip-flops, but nobody knows. Make sure your video is visible and that you're the same height as everybody else. When we stand like this, or when we get back into meetings and we go into a meeting and we sit there and we kind of make our space small, we're showing that we're weak. Research shows confidence is more important than competence. So how you show up, how you walk in that room, do you look people in the eye? Even if you're an introvert, a few of those people like me that are extreme extroverts need to learn to be quiet long enough to hear what introverts have to say, because most time they are right. And we just keep talking. We just keep talking. There's an amazing YouTube by Susan Cain called The Power of the Introverts. And introversion is not a matter of personality, right? It's a matter of where you get your energy. If you go all the way back to Carl Jung and the research he did about people being more with preferences and about extroverts or introverts, extroverts get their energy from outside. That means we love brainstorming. That means we talk out loud. I have to tell my team all the time, I think I'm brainstorming when I'm throwing out 1,000 ideas because I'm so passionate. They think I'm telling them what to do. So I have to tell them, literally, I am just brainstorming. This is an idea for your consideration. Because otherwise they think I'm telling them what to do. And I have an amazing new team all over the world. So I have to be careful of those kind of things. I have to think about those things. We have to get over the fact we are not perfect. Nobody is perfect. We have to get over the idea to become the master of your craft, right? Become the best programmer, the best cybersecurity person, the best project manager, the best person in HR. Master your craft, take workshops, go to Women in Cloud events, take free things. Every time I attend an event, even though I've been doing this for more than 30 years, I learn something. And I log that and think, okay, well, what am I going to do with that? So think about how you can master that, and then your merit will show. The other little bit of, I would call tough love, is one, I want you to be the best you because everyone else is taken. You can watch other women leaders or other people and say, wow, I admire them. But if you're an introvert, you get your energy from inside. You don't like these brainstorming meetings in most cases. You need to have the agenda ahead of time so you can prepare, because you want to reflect and think inside first before you throw out an idea, because credibility is really important to you. Extroverts just talk because that's how we get your energy. You get your energy by reflecting, having time, thinking about it. If you manage introverts, send them the meeting minutes or the meeting agenda ahead of time so they have time to react. Create inclusive meetings where everybody has to say, I agree, thumbs up, or I'm concerned, I have a thought. Make sure you create those amazing experiences, even in your virtual meetings. Go around the table. I start with people first. Every one of my one-on-ones. How are you doing? How's the family? What's going on with your team? What's going well? What help do you need? They're their meetings, and I do the same thing in my team meetings. So just think about that in terms of that. And then the other piece of advice is we need to stop taking the safe jobs. We need to start take jobs outside of HR, program management, those kinds of things, and be able to take the tougher jobs and or learn to speak the language of business. Study the financial statements. Watch the annual shareholder report meeting they have every quarter. Learn to know the business and speak that language. Don't go in and say, I have this great idea I want to share. I have an idea that's going to help us increase AAR. I have an idea that's going to help us reduce waste. So talk the language of business. Talk the language, and confidence just shows up in your body. If you loved gardening, you love cooking like me, and I asked you, what's your favorite recipe, or what do you love about gardening? You have all the confidence in the world because you've mastered it and you have the merit to go behind it. So it's really about stepping up our game. It's playing the business game as a strong, competent, amazing woman leader. Now, I do have a gift for you. If you email me, and I'll give you all my details, or ask me, what you need to have to keep you centered is a personal leadership vision. Countries have visions. Companies have vision, right? Microsoft vision is it used to be empower the world to realize the potential that every company and individual could receive. Apple's vision was to change the way world work, and they did when they were a tiny little company. You need a vision too. You need to think about and reflect. Imagine for a minute you're on your favorite show. Might be the Ellen Show, might be Talk, might be some show that's your favorite show. And you're on this show in 5 years, and you are that strong, confident, amazing, awesome rock star, kick-ass woman leader. And you're sitting there with all your friends, and you're that empathetic woman leader. And you're there with your family, your friends, your coworkers, your bosses. And you're sitting there in 5 years, and they're saying, Julie is an incredible leader. She is strong. She is confident. She's a team player. She brings everybody together. She brings the best out of people. She brings the magic out in her team every day, and she contributes results. And then I want you to imagine that it's you sitting in that room, and all these words are coming together, and you're writing all these words down. And then over a course of a week or a month, I want you to literally go to your favorite place, take your favorite pen and your favorite journal, and I want you to replay those words. Think about those words. So my vision is Patty is a strong, passionate, committed woman leader who makes a difference by empowering women and girls to be the best they can be in any endeavor they choose. And I use that vision to make decisions. I'll give you a quick example. So when I was at Microsoft, I had a job opportunity to either go to Germany and run the Central Eastern Europe business excellence teams, or go to Singapore and run the Asia Pacific customer partner experience team. And I thought about my vision about where I could have the biggest difference. In Europe, we had 1,000 people on the corporate staff, serving 26, 30 countries. I can't even remember right now. In Asia, we had 62 people. serving countries as diverse as Australia to India, as Japan to Sri Lanka, as diverse as Singapore to Indonesia. And so, where was I going to be the big fish in a small pond and make a difference? Or where was I going to be the little fish in the big pond with 1,000 people? I chose Asia. My husband was so supportive. He knew I was interviewing for both jobs. And he said, when I called him from our annual big conference in like Orlando or some terrible place, sorry if you're from Orlando, I'm going to say New Orleans or someplace, because we always did them in July. And it was so hot and so sweaty. It was horrible. And when I called him and said I accepted the job overseas, he said, well, he'd never been to the trip. He'd never been to the place we were going to move. He didn't even have a passport at the time. And he said, do I pack snowshoes or flip-flops? I said, pack your flip-flops. We're going to Singapore. So he saw Singapore the first time on our house hunting trip. So pick your partners carefully. Pick someone that lifts you up, not someone that shuts you down. And really think about the how you create that confidence, that mastery. Practice. Do the things you need to do, but just be the best you, because everybody else is taken. And if you email me or connect with me on LinkedIn or anything, or I'll send you a link, a way to get my book for $15, and I'll sign it to you. So contact me. So just make it happen. Make it so. Be the best you.
I love that, Patty. You can pack a punch in like a 10-minute talk. And I love the chat, how I think a couple of our participants here said, be the best you. Everybody else is taken. So thank you.